Do I still look like Justin Bieber? Am I good?
All right, what's going on, guys? Today, I have the opportunity to bring my man Jimmy House into DSP, and today we're actually gonna talk about powerlifting exercises that can transfer over to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Now, first of all, let me start by saying this. This man is an ultimate generalist when we're talking about just wide range of talent. Jimmy, tell him exactly what you do and give him some accolades real quick.
Black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Got my pro natural bodybuilding card about 3 years ago, and then I also competed at professional level of powerlifting too. So today we're gonna cover deadlifts, different deadlift variations and how they apply specifically to jiu-jitsu. Talk about joint angles, hip positioning, the different muscles that go into grappling that are displayed when doing something like a conventional sumo or even trap bar deadlift. That bleeds into various pressing variations, how to maybe take a barbell bench press that you're not super comfortable with and bleed that into something that you could do, say with dumbbells, get more range of motion, strengthen your joints, get more out of each and every rep. That's something that I really pride myself in. And then how do we take a squat and not only make it to where we get stronger legs, get stronger core, stronger back, but also strengthen our joints and ligaments all at the same time. We'll get into that. So if you guys have bad knees, this might be something that you want to look at if you guys want to continue squatting for better performance in jiu-jitsu. Okay guys, so we typically think about a deadlift in powerlifting or bodybuilding. You see Ronnie Coleman come up to a deadlift and say, lightweight baby, lightweight baby, and then rip it off the floor. Obviously deals with a lot of injuries after that. So we need to talk about how the deadlift itself can be very functional when it comes to something like jiu-jitsu. Obviously we have a straight bar here. This could be a trap bar. You could also bring this into a sumo deadlift. But some of the common mistakes that we make when we're deadlifting, but how does it apply? So 3 basic things that you need to take note of when you're doing a deadlift is how to place the bar over your center of gravity. And so for most people, regardless of height, size, skinny, fat, doesn't matter, it's gonna be over your midfoot. So from the front of your toes to the back of your heel, the bar will generally start cutting your foot in half. That's gonna place the bar over your center of gravity. Now the biggest thing when it comes to deadlifting is making sure that you're not trying to squat the weight up. Remember, we're deadlifting, we're not squatting, so it's 2 different lifts. If I try to get too low with my hips, it's gonna throw me out of position, and that's when you get a lot of forward pull here and a lot of back that you don't need. In order to mitigate the potential of that happening, bar cuts my foot in half, my arms, instead of squeezing, retracting, and depressing my scapula here, I'm gonna make my arms super long, so push my shoulders down. This creates a lever point that I'm gonna hinge at the hips and meet the bar as soon as my hands touch. From here, it's important that we keep the tension in our hands, so I like to use like this click here as a reference. This is called the slack of the bar. This click, once I pull that out, signifies the tension being in my hands. And so once I pull that click out of the bar, I'm in a good position to make sure that I can sink my hips down. As soon as my shins meet the bar, I'm driving through the floor just like a leg press and coming up to the top. Now in simpleton terms, if you're trying to gauge where your stance should be for a deadlift, I always tell my clients to approach the bar as if you're trying to jump as high as you can over it, okay? So I come up to the bar and I try to jump. My body naturally puts me in this position, so naturally my body feels like it's the most powerful generating force going into the ground with about this stance. This can change depending upon your height and what you feel comfortable with, but this is a good starting point. So once we've practiced the technique of the deadlift, let's take a few things into account. Grip strength. Obviously your hands are gripping, especially as you go up in weight, super hard. So we got hand strength, tendon strength, forearm strength going on. The upper back in traps, people talk about my traps a lot. It honestly comes from like 95% of the deadlift. So when it comes to being able to maintain somewhat of a neutral spine here, that's obviously your lumbar working, but the lats and everything engaging your erectors to make sure that you're protecting yourself there. So it's a huge movement to get a lot of benefits all in one. On top of that, if we look at the joint angles that are replicated here, this in itself, if you jump, replicates like a way to jump. But in jiu-jitsu grappling, we take the same stance and I might stagger a little bit. All of a sudden, I'm in a position to press off my leg and shoot, sprawl, bring in my hips. There's a lot of direct application here, mimic through the joint angles that you can get through your traditional deadlift. Now, if you took something like a trap bar, it'd be the same exact thing. You're just a little bit more upright, so you'll get a little bit more quad out of it. But this is gonna be my first exercise that I'm gonna say to you guys is that I would incorporate in any of your training regimens to get better carryover to jiu-jitsu. So the second exercise that we're gonna be talking about is a press. Traditional bench press, I'm not somebody that does a whole lot of with a barbell, so a lot of my pressing comes from bodyweight exercises like push-ups or dips, but also comes from this guy right here. And I'm gonna explain how I take an incline press and change the gripping positioning to get more range of motion, but a little bit more resiliency in my chest, shoulders, triceps, and even elbows to get better chest activation, but also take advantage of the fact that we're pressing from a grip that's gonna more likely mimic positions that we're gonna be in jiu-jitsu wise. A lot of times when you talk about bulletproofing your body, you try to find positions in the weight room that put yourself in a compromised position that are controlled through variables such as load management, exercise selection. But when it comes to some of the power movements where you want to be generating a lot of force, a lot of times I try to put myself in similar gripping or joint angle positions that are replicated on the mat. So for here, upper body, a lot of times it's going to be elbows in. You know, elbows in when you're fighting for underhooks, elbows in when you're fighting for inside position, sprawling, all that good stuff. So for our general gym hobbyists that might be tuning in, one of the biggest things that I see is the setup when you're putting dumbbells on. A lot of times people either like have somebody hand it to them and it's all awkward, or they try to bring one up at a time and they can't curl it up and it falls off to the side, they hurt their shoulder. Let me show you something that I've been doing since high school that's worked basically flawlessly for me in order to set these up. So I personally prefer to set them up for incline towards the edge of my knees. Now from this position, especially if you're going heavy, it's a little bit risky to try to rock it back on your own and try to like bicep curl it. If it comes out of position, you could potentially hurt your shoulder. So what I like to do, I always grab the dumbbells towards the top, grip hard, I rock up as if I'm about to stand up, and I use the momentum of my body to now kick or knee the weight up into position for a perfect lift off. So one more time, up, rock back, both knees up, here. Now from this position, I'm trying to mimic a powerlifting setup in a sense that my legs are driven into the ground, my heels are driven into the ground, so if you were to feel my quads are engaged, my hamstrings are tight, and my glutes. So I have a solid foundation here. Now from this position, my back is also a key component, so I'm retracting and compressing my shoulders downward, keeping my elbows super, super tight. A lot of times when we're doing dumbbell press like this, you'll see a lot of this at the gym, which for muscle activation and a workout, burning calories, it works just fine. But if we're trying to get super, super strong in ranges of motion that we might get in a grappling match or an MMA match, this is what I found to work the best. This allows the dumbbells to get out of the way. We have a lot of elbow and shoulder flexion going on here, and my chest is as stretched out as possible here at the bottom. This for me, since I've always had trouble building a chest, has actually helped me a lot, because unlike a flat bench press, I can feel a deep stretch across my chest, squeeze my chest for the initial first couple inches of the lift, and carry through with my triceps and shoulders. So here, boom, and if you come to the side, you'll see that my forearms are as vertical as possible and my fists are as tight to my shoulders as possible. Here, here. Don't let the dumbbells go down this way, always keeping your elbow and wrist aligned. Everything stacked. Try this bench press variation out, and I guarantee you'll like it more than anything else you've ever done. Now let's work the reverse of that. Phil and I just talked about when it comes to generating power forward, a lot of times one of the smartest things you can do is work the muscles that are gonna be the reverse of that. From an effectiveness standpoint, putting actual force forward, but also from a standpoint of bulletproofing, which you'll hear me talk about a lot, but essentially making sure that whatever movement you're generating forward, your body has the motor oil, let's call it, to be able to sustain that over a long period of time. So a lot of guys, typical guys go into the gym, focus on a lot of pressing to develop their upper body because that's physically what you can see in the mirror, but they also don't put a lot of effort into building their back, specifically like through their rear delts, rhomboids and scaps and everything like that. So now let's take this specific bar, which is a great bar to have. The great thing about this is that you have a multitude of options from a narrow grip, medium, and wide, but it also allows you to pull again from that dumbbell conversation that we had earlier from a neutral angle, which again, when it comes to grappling, being neutral here, elbows in tight, is gonna be a position that you're probably gonna try to be very effective of. So now from this position, the thing that I wanna touch on is that you probably, unless you go to a gym as great as Phil's, you may not have this set up. So the next best thing that you can do is either get super creative and take a regular bench press and then stack it on a bunch of plates or a box, or you can take an incline bench and essentially set yourself up from a position to pull like this. The main benefit from a seal row perspective is just essentially the fact that you can basically do everything that you would do with the normal barbell row, except now it's 100% upper back. You aren't allowed to use any type of momentum that you could generate from your legs. We'll set ourselves up here like we're getting a massage. I'm gonna put my hands about where I would be if I was in a grappling situation. So a lot of times I'm not gonna be super, super close in like that. I'm gonna be relatively like 90, parallel to each other. Get that grip that I'm looking for. Generally, like with a bar like this, grip right in the middle. Lift off, And I'm trying to keep this guy starting wise right under my chest, but we're also trying to mimic a reverse bench press. So I'm gonna pull it almost in the direction that I would as if I'm trying to pull the bar into my chest. So I'm here, pull it back at a very slight angle, hold, and come down. When it comes to the scapulas and rhomboids, rear delts and everything like that, I find that they're work the best when you implement some type of hold to not only make sure the lats are working, but to make sure that the smaller muscle groups that are a little bit harder to hit get their work as well. So making sure you're staying neutral here. I suggest not being up here with your chin. Keep your chin tucked here like this so your spine stays neutral. Retract, pull at the elbows, hold, and control on the way down. And something like this, I'm generally going to suggest 3 to 5 sets, anywhere from 10 to 12 reps at an RPE scale of generally like 7 to 8 for most people. So you're doing this for a higher rep count, leaving about 1 to 2, maybe 3 reps in the tank, depending upon where you're at in your current training schedule. Hope this helps, guys.
All right, guys, so there you have it. 3 powerlifting style exercises or lifts that you can do to take with you on the mats. Now, make sure you follow my man here. Again, great information that you guys can take with you. Anything else that you want to add to that?
The biggest misconception when it comes to powerlifting and jiu-jitsu is most people's ability to do it long-term without getting injured. And through technique and proper exercise selection as far as where your accessories go, you can do heavy lifts like this, hard and intense. And as long as you control your schedule between your hard training days on the mat and your hard training days in the gym, you can benefit from a lot of these exercises. Phil and I do a lot of similar stuff, and I'm actually very excited to learn from him and the stuff that he's gonna do. But these are the stuff that really help me in my training, elevate my strength, but also allow me to recover as long as it's planned properly through a coach, through a program, or through just attaining knowledge through watching great videos like Phil has.
He's the man. Go ahead, check him out. What's your Instagram?
My Instagram is at jhouse182, the letter J, H-O-U-S-E 182.
And the YouTube channel now.
Jimmy House.
All right, guys. See you again next time. Make sure you subscribe, hit the notification, hit the like button if you like this video. Send me a comment. Make sure you follow my boy. I'll see you again next time. Peace.